Guys, I just watched the Manster and we gotta talk about it. This movie is a 1960s piece of art. More like piece of fart. Got him. So, I mean, I'll be really brief, I guess, to the best of my ability. But we're going to kind of walk through the whole film and talk about why it's really bad. Or I guess not really bad. It's like, it is enjoyable, but... well, I don't know. So the Manster is about a half man, half monster, and he's really scary. How did it come about? Well, let me explain. So it opens up with this like Japanese spring and these ladies are in it, right? And then all of a sudden this other lady's doing something and then she gets murdered. Pan over to this guy in a volcano, Dr. Suzuki. We'll talk about him later. And he's talking about something with some kind of recent murder happening and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden he's talking to this lady creature in a cage. She actually looks a lot like Sloth from the Goonies. But anyway, she's hanging out in this cage, and then this monster shows up that apparently did this murder, and then Dr. Suzuki's like Mr. Exposition, basically, and he's just saying,
"You were my brother. You're an experiment that didn't work out."
But it was the weirdest thing. He goes up, I guess he tussles with him for a second, and then all of a sudden he picks him up like he's a styrofoam little boy and throws him into a big furnace. Whoa, pretty crazy. Anyway, then some guy just shows up walking up the mountain, walks into the house, and he basically just says, "Hey, I'm here to talk to Dr. Suzuki." So then eventually he gets to meet up with him. The doctor, whenever he's talking to him, asks him how old he is. And he says he's 35, and I really doubt it.
How old are you, Mr. Stanford?
35?
Sure, bud. Oh, and also, too, he looks a lot like Dan Patrick, from the sports radio stuff. But anyway, he's there apparently to interview Dr. Suzuki about his approaches to evolution and I guess finding out ways to create mutations from chemicals. So, yeah, Dr. Suzuki asked him if he's been a good boy.
Have you been, that is to say, have you had any other kind of companionship?
Well, I've been a good boy, if that's what you mean, Doc.
But in any event, they have a drink together, and then so later he falls asleep on the couch, and all of a sudden Dr. Suzuki pops a shot in his neck and loads him up with something. In any event, our guy wakes up. He's like, "Oh, I'm all hungover and stuff." He goes to work, meets up with his boss and says, "Hey, dude, I'm drunk." Something like that. And then he's like, "Hey, your wife called," and he calls him. And then all of a sudden, there's this one moment whenever you can really get a glimpse of the times, and there's this super dramatic switchboard scene.
Put that call through here.
Oh, darling, it's wonderful to hear your voice.
But anyway, he talks to his wife, and he's like, "Hey, I miss you, blah, blah, blah. Hey, I'm going to a party later. I'm going to act like you're there, so, because I miss you so much." Anyway, shows up. Here's some really weird Japanese rock band stuff kind of thing. Really throwing me off. But they're there, and they're drinking and flirting with these ladies.
Well, I've been a good boy.
Yeah, it doesn't really match up then, does it? I guess he wants his wife to see that he's being floosy. But anyway, then all of a sudden you see our boy Larry touch his shoulder, and you hear, I think it's called a theremin. Woo! So at this point, our friend Larry is like super drunk. And he starts talking to Dr. Suzuki saying really weird stuff.
Hey, Doc. Tell her it's an old American custom called smooch. And tell her she smooches good.
Oh, I don't
Now,
know.
I haven't finished yet. Tell her she smooches good. And tell her I like to give her some advanced lessons,
But I mean, that whole scene wraps up, and he goes back to work the next day, basically drunk as a skunk, and then tells his boss, "Hey, I'm gonna go hang out with this guy again too, and get drunk again." Really good fella you got there. So he goes back out, and Dr. Suzuki starts saying, "Hey, remember my assistant? You'll be really impressed by her talents." And the first talent he lists, is she's beautiful.
I think you'll find her especially interesting.
Why especially?
Her talent. She is, first of all, an exceptionally beautiful woman.
But anyway, they eventually do meet up with his assistant, and they're at this bathhouse. So he's wearing this big robe or whatever. So he gets in there. He's all kind of like hanky-panky, going like, "Hey, we going to be taking a bath together?" And then he's like, "Why is this wall here?"
One for you and one for me.
I see. What's this, the Wall of Jericho?
He didn't seem to like that. But then he's still acting super weird and horn doggish whenever he gets in the tub. But then while he's in the water, he starts kind of feeling some of that stuff coming on. And then he grabs his hand like it's super angry, kind of like that, yeah. But then there's a point whenever, like, they get out of the tub and he's, like, walking towards her, and it fades to black, and it's almost, like, suggesting kind of rapey vibe there a little bit. So, kind of, maybe it's showing its age. Not really, I don't know, kind of uncomfortable. But then he starts going and hanging out with this girl. I think her name's Tara. Doing all this kinds of stuff. Just going out to a club and going to this little thing. Dancing. Hiya, hiya. It's just super weird. And it's like, yeah, he's being a good boy. And he's just straight up cheating on his wife. Just flat out infidelity. There's a good word. Anyway, he shows back up at his apartment. And again, floosey-doosey and drunk as a skunk.
Yum has a great little song and a great little country. Hey, now I'm going to show you where I live. Can you mix a martini?
What is that?
That's a musical martini.
Walks into his apartment and bam, his wife's there. Whew. He got really angry too at that point, which is pretty interesting.
Ian wouldn't tell me a thing, but it wasn't hard to guess that you'd found company.
Sorry, Larry.
Yeah, sure.
So then his wife says, "Hey, either you pick me or you pick your girlfriend there." And what do you know? The guy just goes and says, "All right, I'll see you later. I'll take this broad." Well, you only knew her for like a day. Oh, yeah. Here's another part. He goes over to Tara's place, right? And then at this point, I uncovered what I believe to be like the modern day, well, that's pretty neat statement.
Hey, how about that?
He walks in the house and he drops one of these.
Hey, how about that?
I mean, we might still say it a little bit today. That's neat. So then, basically, he leaves Tara's apartment because she's like, "I won't be with any man with any luggage." Well, you got yourself in this situation, didn't you, lady?
Hey, how about that?
So goes back to his apartment, and he looks really rough. Walks on in there. He sees his wife's asleep on the couch, And then the first thing he does, he just goes and gets a drink and keeps going. But then he starts feeling that the angry hand come back again, and he's gonna use it or something. I don't know. Like he's trying to hold it back, and it's really starting to take him over. Gets in an argument with his wife. Showcases some fantastic acting here in the movie.
Settle down. That's a good way to put it. Settle down like mud in a pool. Bridge on Wednesdays, cocktail Thursdays, PTA Fridays.
But you know
I can't give you this kind of stuff, Linda.
Then at that point now, I'm certainly not a fan of any domestic violence or any of that sort, but the way that it is portrayed here was very interesting.
Nobody's going to tie me down anymore. Nobody's going to tell me what to do.
But then after that point, he starts feeling his trap, I guess you could say, a trapezoid shoulder area. Feeling really weird. Goes, checks it out in the mirror, and it's this really weird scar thing. Like, whoa. So he's not feeling really good, and he goes out on the town, he's kind of wandering around, and he hears this guy in a Buddhist temple singing some music, and he kind of walks up expecting him, I guess, to know that he can have a conversation. And he just goes, I heard you're singing.
I heard you singing.
But then it's kind of at this point where he really starts to lose his mind, and he kills the guy. But anyway, he wakes up, and you realize, oh my God, this guy stole this guy's beads too. But he's at a bar now, and his bud's trying to talk some sense into him. Well, that didn't really work, so then he's wandering around at night again, being all lurky-durky and stuff, and all of a sudden he just goes on a murderous rampage. Well, I mean, only 2 people, sure, but it is a bit of a rampage, I guess you could say. Now, big moment with Dr. Suzuki here, because he's talking about the development of Larry / Manny the Manster, and you figure out that the sloth-looking thing in the cage is his wife. Whoa. But anyway, our bud old Manster Larry, goes back to his apartment, and then his bud's there with a doctor, and basically starts asking him questions and stuff and trying to have like an intervention, but yeah, our boy Larry wasn't having any of that.
Let me alone, that's all. Just let me alone. Let me alone!
So he kicks the doctor and Larry out of the house, and all of a sudden then he just has this whole conniption that's pretty wild. So I guess after having the eyeball on his shoulder, he just thought, I'm gonna go see this doctor now, because I think it's worthwhile to do, because, well, yeah, I'm kind of losing my mind, whatever. So he goes to this guy's place, kicks the door open. The doctor's like, well, I don't trust this guy at all. At this point, there's kind of actually a pretty handy little shot that they did, with the good zoom over the shoulder of the doctor, out of the door and coming back in. So at least a little bit of craft there. Sparing 2 seconds. Was it a perfect shot by any means? No, but it looked okay. So now at this point, while our boy Manny the Manster is trying to go in there and kill the doctor, he knocks a lamp off of the wall, and he just freaks out, right? And then this point was when he fully transforms into the Manster. And now here's a great reveal shot. Also, too, kudos to the doctor for his reaction. That's some top-notch stuff. So at this point, then the cops show up and they start investigating it. And basically the guy's saying, hey, I'm going to take your bud in. Bud, not butt. Bud. So then this guy's Bud is now at the apartment waiting for him. He's thinking, oh, God, he's about to walk in there. And he almost kills a cleaning woman. But, you know, there's this whole tizzy going on. Everyone's all this mass hysteria and stuff. But so he's now at the police department, and the captain's doing like this press conference, right? This guy gives like the line of the whole movie. Nailed it.
I'd like to know, sir, when do you expect to catch the killer?
But anyway, they like go searching out that night, and the Manster just is basically an idiot. He just shows up in the middle of all this cops and just is running around. I imagine there's some kind of scenario where he probably could have just run around him, but he just decided, they're over this wall, I'm going to go over this wall and get in the middle of what's going on over here. Oh, but at this point, it's pretty pivotal. He then murders a cop. Pretty crazy. But anyway, the wife then goes over to the apartment, and then she sees him for the first time. But he's pretty stoic and doesn't attack her, so I don't know why. Well, no, and then at this point, he's at Tara's house, and he's like going running through it and like destroying the whole thing. It's pretty great. And he escapes that again. And then the cops go after him. Here he's at some kind of place. So they're like, oh, there he goes. And they chase him down there. So they're in the shipyard, right? And he throws a cop off of a ledge or something. And he gets away again. It doesn't make any sense. So then we cut back to Dr. Exposition / Suzuki. He starts talking about how Larry / Manny the Manster could become two people, right? So then one could be Larry and the other one could be Manny the Manster. But Dr. Suzuki basically is like losing his mind. And honestly, I don't get the whole point of why he was doing all this. Like, he made all these monsters, but like for what reason? And then he just ended up shooting his wife.
Forgive me.
Oh, and then Tara gives a great line whenever Manny the Manster shows up at the top of the volcano. Now, then our boy Manny the Manster walks in there to, I guess, confront Suzuki, and they get in a big fight. And Manny the Manster stabs Suzuki, kills him pretty easily. Then he spins around some steam, breaks some beakers, goes upstairs, grabs Tara, and he like runs out to, I guess, the top of the volcano. It's pretty interesting how easily he can carry this woman. Like, he's kind of carrying her like a satchel or something, just, you know, going whoop and then going. But at this point is whenever, you know, he's at the top, kind of near this big steam hole thing, whatever that's called. And he starts to do the split. Oh, now it's Larry and it's Manny the Manster, and they get in a fight. So Tara's up here by this hole that goes into the volcano. She gets pushed in by Manny the Manster, and then Larry pushes him in. But anyway, then the cops show up and they take him away, and then his bud and wife had this whole conversation. Pretty stupid, but basically just saying, well, hey, now that the bad got separated from the good, can we even hold the good accountable?
It's going to pose quite a legal problem. Who really did all these things? There was good in Larry and there was evil. The evil part broke through, took hold. Call it an accident or call it a warning.
A warning?
I'm a reporter, not a mystic, Linda. But there are things beyond us, things perhaps we're not meant to understand. If what's happened has made this all clear, well then, perhaps it makes sense after all. Have faith, Linda. Have faith in the good that's still in Larry and in all men.
But I mean, that's really it. That's the Manster. an instant classic, something I'll never forget. You know, I think there's a Manster in all of us. Deep down, we got two heads. One made out of paper mache and another one that's real. Such is life.